punch my ass.
I'm only 4. Bonjour, Monsieur Pussycat.
Cracking toast, Robert.
Start spreading the news.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the short podcast about short films. I am your host, and we are discussing the Academy Award for Best Animated Short. Today's episode is about the 59th year of the award at the 63rd Academy Awards, which celebrates the films of 1990. Today's guest you last heard discussing Gerald McBoing Boing and the nominees of 1950, 40 years ago. Please welcome back Noah Pasternak. Hello, Noah.
Hey, it's good to be back. I was looking forward to this for a while.
It is an honor to have you back.
Oh,
I love you on Twitter. I love all the thoughts you have on all those classic films. And when we stop doing like animated short and stuff, I'll make sure to bring you back for some like classic shorts and stuff like that. Because I know
thank you.
that's more of your expertise and things like that.
Yeah, no, I'm very much a Looney Tunes guy, so
Oh yeah. But today we are here to discuss the 1990, the birth of the 1990s, and the birth specifically of Aardman animation, at least in terms of this category. But before we get to that, remind us, what is your familiarity with the best animated short category?
well, I mean, growing up, that was always that and Best Animated Movie. Those were the two I was most interested in because, I mean, I always wanted to be a cartoonist and get into the animation industry. So whenever my parents were watching the Oscars or whatever, that's what I would, sort of pay the most attention to. And Aardman specifically, I remember seeing a lot of these on TV. I don't remember what network it would have been, but growing up, there was a lot of just Aardman cartoons like the Creature Comforts, which we're getting into, and Shaun the Sheep. So I have a lot of nostalgia for what we're looking at this time around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this episode and a few of the episodes we're going to get into are like a big one in terms of people who like wanted to be on these specific episodes, because the Aardman shorts, specifically when it comes to Wallace and Gromit, like those are some of the most popular shorts that we have in this category, especially when it comes to the modern day. It's like,
Yeah.
of course, we've discussed how like back in the 1940s, you got a lot of like big famous studio shorts when it comes to like the Disney stuff and Tom and Jerry and Looney Tunes, of course. But as the time goes on, it's like you don't get as many notable short films, at least when it comes to more broader perception of the category. And the only rare exceptions to that are with Pixar and with Aardman. And so without spoiling the episode any further, let's just get straight into these nominees. And this
All
year
right.
has only 3. Our first nominee and the year's winner is Creature Comforts, directed by Nick Park. This is the first nomination and win for Park, as well as the first nomination and win for Aardman Animation. I'm going to spend this space discussing the history of Aardman Animation first, and leave the Nick Park talk for when we get into his Wallace and Gromit films. So Aardman began in 1972, founded by animators Peter Lord and David Sproxton, fresh out of college and both with dreams of making an animated feature film, a lofty goal that many former nominees have aspired to with varying success. They're a long ways away from that, however. For now, they're stuck making some small animated segments for the British children's program for deaf children, Vision On, with one of those segments featuring the origin of the Aardman name, that being a parody of Superman. And something that might shock some listeners is that Aardman wasn't developed as a claymation or stop motion animation studio. Their first foray into that medium was in 1976 in the introduction of the character of Morph on a show called Take Heart, which was a follow-up to Vision On. This Morph character was the first step to Aardman's future success, as the BBC ended up commissioning a whole series about Morph, which aired in 1981. Their work started to take off, also being commissioned for the title sequence of The Great Egg Race, as well as a few music videos, most famously for the Peter Gabriel song Sledgehammer, which Aardman worked on with the brothers Quay to create what is considered one of the greatest music videos of all time, winning 9 MTV Video Music Awards, which to this day is the most wins for a single music video, and is also the most played music video in the history of MTV. With this kind of notoriety, Aardman was growing larger, and Lord and Sproxton couldn't direct every project they did. So they promote three of their animators to directors, Barry Purves, Richard Golzowski, and Nick Park. Their debut films were as part of a series of shorts called Lip Sync for Channel 4, where they take audio from man on the street interviews and animate over them. 5 were made in total, but one short stood out from the pack, that being Nick Park's Creature Comforts, today's winner. I'm not even exactly sure what it is that made Creature Comforts take off in the way that it did, so far beyond the other shorts in the lip sync series, but so it did. Not only was it nominated for several awards beyond the Oscars, but it spawned a series of advertisements and a TV series. This was yet another step for Aardman towards their impending fame. But what even is Creature Comforts? The short takes audio from people commenting on their own living conditions and twists it to animals talking about living in a zoo. Noah, start us off. What do you think of Creature Comforts?
Creature Comforts is they showed these a lot on TV, like the TV adaptation growing up. So I honestly I'm not sure if I even knew going into this that it was spawned from a short film. So I felt a little ignorant in that department, but I really love these. I have lots of nostalgic fondness for them. I love they really get like little bits of acting and nuance out of those like animal characters. Like I totally understand why this took off, especially the puma talking about Brazil, like his little hand movements and facial expression. I was just watching that over and over again, just like those characters. Like those are probably the Aardman characters who feel the most alive. Like they really put a lot of care into those movements, and even just like little effects, like when the water splashes and it leaves a little stain. I have no idea how they did that. I was like, when we took a claymation class in college, I was horrible at it, so I will never figure out how they did that. And honestly, I prefer not to know. It's real as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, I just this is a really charming short. I personally prefer out of the two we're gonna look at the Wallace and Gromit one, which I don't think is a very unpopular opinion, but I definitely understand why these took off the way they did.
Uh, I'm a bit of a disagreement because I just don't understand Creature Comforts and why, because this is a very beloved short, especially amongst like the best animated short winners and amongst Aardman's catalog. Like Creature Comforts is like a big thing, of course, because like I said, it was a big TV series and things like that. But it's just when I'm watching this, I just don't really understand what the big deal is. Like of course, the art, Nick Park's animation and things like that. Like I'm like you in the fact that I just don't understand how it's so smooth, how they're able to keep the characters like with other claymation. It's like you can almost always clearly see like the fingerprints of the animators and things like that. But with this, it's just so smooth. I have no idea how they did that. I want to learn more, but it's just like, but outside of that, I just don't find much to really enjoy here. Like I don't hate it or anything. It's fine, but I don't think it's very funny. I don't think I don't really care. It just goes to these different interviews and it's like, oh yeah, there's this polar bear, and then there's the lion, and then there's the other animals. And it's just like, okay. And then the short ends. I'm just like, okay, I watched it, and it's just like, what more was there? And it's like people, I see like other reviews of this on Letterboxd and things like that, and just like talk about how like yes, this is Aardman's masterpiece. Is like, this is hysterical, and it's just like, is it just because I'm not British? Like, the is this just too dry for me to really get into and to laugh out loud at? I just don't understand it.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, you do have the severe advantage of not being British, just like in general. I don't know. I think I just kind of have a baby brain, and just sort of seeing like animals move in this very like fluid, nuanced way is enough for me. Like again, I don't think it's the best of the ones we watched, but I did find it very charming. And maybe it's also because in the original Monty Python series, they did a lot of these where it's just like the man on the street interviews. So I guess I just kind of have a fondness for that sort of thing, but I do also think it's like it does seem to be a thing that is very specific to the British living experience or whatever. Like I get the sense that they do these sort of interviews and segments on British TV more than they would like in North America. So
Mhm.
maybe that is part of it, but I don't know. It's got polar bears talking about vibing, and one of the animals takes a crap on screen, and that's really all I need. So
Mhm. Yeah, it's like it's not because I'm like unfamiliar with the like man on the street interviews or things like that. Although what I think might be it. So like I do a lot of research for this podcast, and it's like uh and it's just like I learned beforehand that like these are not like actors like reading a script or anything. Like these are just archival interviews and that Nick Park is animating over. And I feel like that may have like kind of hindered my enjoyment a bit. Like I didn't even like maybe that's not true because I didn't like it the first time I watched it, or at least I thought it was mediocre that first time. But uh I think other people are more wowed by it because they they think like, oh, these are like original jokes that are being written by like Aardman, Nick Parker, whoever, whereas just like, and these are actors saying these lines in such a perfect way that makes it sound like, oh, they're like you've got the like the little kid and the polar bear as the polar bear or whatever, or it's just like oh wow, the kid seems so natural saying that lines, but it's just like it's just him talking because these are just a regular interview with a normal kid talking about his house or whatever. And it's just like I wonder if that might be part of it. I don't know. I'm just I wish I liked this more. I want to enjoy things, but sometimes I just don't.
yeah, no, I do get that. Like I do think it is a very like I don't know what the word, maybe like acquired taste where either you find this kind of thing funny or you really don't. And I don't know why I find it funny. I think it's like a good little riff on like how stilted people talk when they do these interviews, like just the way the animals are just kind of like stiff and looking around. And
Hmm.
I don't know. It appealed to me a lot. I thought it was uh one hell of a time. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like I'm all for people enjoying this. It's just not for me. And I didn't also mention this in my letterbox review, but it reminds me a lot of there was this series of shorts in the 40s called Speaking of Animals, where it's kind of like the reverse of this, where it's like while this is taking dialogue of people and putting animals over it, that was like taking footage of animals and putting like jokes, like they animate mouths onto the animals of them just saying like the most stupid jokes. This is like a bunch of weird puns, and it's just like, first off, those shorts were made by Tex Avery. Second of all, that series of shorts won multiple Oscars in the live action short category, which is just mind boggling to me as well. And I just thought it was worth putting out there because I don't know. I just was reminded of it, and I think more people should know about the Speaking of Animals series because it's such a strange thing to imagine, like before Casablanca or something, that you had to watch a weird short film where people animated mouths on top of farm animals.
I
It's
think I have seen some of the Speaking of Animal just because it was Tex Avery. I don't really remember them, but like when you talked about it, I was like, oh yeah, that was a thing. Maybe the Academy just has like a huge ass weak spot for animals talking like people. I don't know.
the thing with the Academy is that if your short is just lightly funny, they will award it. It's just like they don't need like laugh out loud funny. They just need a chuckle, and that's good enough. It's just like, and like that's one of the few consistencies I can find in this category is that this category and also live action short, where it's just like at least back in the day. Hey, nowadays they really want depressing shit in live action short, but it used to just be like, if it gives me a chuckle, I will vote for it because that is essentially what they expected from these short films. Like especially when they were screening before films, it's just like they're not there to be art. Like that's what the main movie's for. These are there to just entertain you while you wait for the movie. And it's just
Yeah,
like,
I do agree with that because not to bring up Looney Tunes again, but when you think of the fact that like the Bugs Bunny cartoon that won an Oscar was I think Nighty Night Bugs, which is it's like fine, but out of all the ones they could have given an Oscar to, why that one? And I think it's just because it's pleasant enough,
mhm.
and that's really like you said, that's all they really need.
Yeah,
And also, like you said, now they're into, bringing out the more depressing shorts and awarding them the the Oscar, which is why I think it's time to bring back Mr. Magoo and just like make
yes.
it really dark. Just like have him fucking die in every short, and we'll see how many Oscars he gets. I think he already
Mr.
has like two or three. So
Mr. Magoo with child death sprinkled throughout. It's just a little spice that the whole series needs. But yeah, and it's just like on your Looney Tunes point, it's like that also explains the famous like snubbing of like What's Opera Doc and Duck Amuck when those are actually Duck Amuck is very funny. Yeah, like that's a very joke heavy short, but for something like What's Opera Doc, where it is a bit more serious with a bit more artsy, it's like it's a lot about like the visuals and the colors and everything. And it's just like they didn't nominate that one even though it was submitted by Warner Brothers because they don't want art. They just want light comedy.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
it feels like they're going for like McDonald's instead of
Mhm.
whatever the higher quality version of McDonald's is. I don't know. I mostly just eat McDonald's.
But yeah,
I started my comparison and then I realized like, oh, I don't know how to end this. So
it's just like a high class restaurant. Just name anything. Like
Burger
they
King.
want Chili's. They don't want McDonald's. Or they do want McDonald's instead of Chili's.
No, Chili's is getting snubbed.
The award for best restaurant Chili's was fucking snubbed. Can't believe the Academy would do this. But yeah, it's just like, and the whole thing with like live action short becoming more serious. It's like that's happening to animated short also because we had in the last 3 years we have If Anything Happens, I Love You, which is of course about a school shooting and the victim or whatever, and then we have The Windshield Wiper, which honestly that whole year is just a very weird year. There wasn't really a very Academy winner in there. And then last year, we of course had the film I keep complaining about. I feel like every single episode in the last season, I made a comparison to this short, but The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, which is the most just sentimental bullshit. It's just like if Winnie the Pooh had no soul, it'd be The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. It's
Yeah,
just
no, I agree with you. I don't try not to think about it too often.
I I wish I didn't think about it as much as I did, but I have just such a burning hatred in my heart that like every time I watch a good short, it's just like, and I want to like make comparisons. It's like, okay, let's pull out this bad one. It's like an easy straw man for me to make my comparisons with.
No, you have like I think just about everybody who's seen that short has like serious beef with it. And
Mhm.
the guy who made I don't even remember who made it, but
I got the names here. It's Charlie Maxey and Matthew Freud.
I thought you were about to say Charlie Manson, and I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could see him like being involved in this somehow.
Yeah,
If
but
you took like a look into Charles Manson's mind, like that's what you'd see. Like when they in The Simpsons when they show like Homer's brain and it's just like a monkey or whatever. That's
in Homer Simpson's mind is Charles Manson, and in the Charles Manson mind inside Homer Simpson is the boy, the motherfucks, and the horse. Uh,
that's where movies come from.
that,
That's the movie
that's what
magic.
dreams are made of, baby. God. Oh man. Uh, anything else you like to say about Creature Comforts, or shall I move on?
Um, no, I don't have too much to say about creature comforts.
All right. Then let's move on to our second nominee, which is A Grand Day Out, directed by Nick Park. This is Park's second nomination after winning in 1990 for Creature Comforts. This also marks the second nomination for Aardman Animation. And now hold on a second. Two nominations in the same year? Surely you can't be serious. Yes, Nick Park has accomplished something that was thought only possible in the years of the studio system, where the nominees were just the studio heads who had little creative input in the shorts. The last time this happened was in 1964 with William L. Snyder, and Nick Park is the only person to have done it in the nearly 60 years since, as of this recording. And one more notable thing about this short is that it is the debut of Wallace and Gromit, marking the first in a long line of nominations. One of my favorite facts about the Wallace and Gromit franchise is that it is one of the few series that can say that every eligible entry has been Oscar nominated. 4 short films, a feature film, and even 2 spin-off feature films with Shaun the Sheep, all Oscar nominated, including 3 wins, placing among the likes of Star Wars. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The real question is, how did this cheese-loving duo come to be? Let's talk about Nick Park. Unlike Aardman, Park had a specific interest in claymation from a young age, enjoying how easy it was to move and mold, and all you needed was a camera to make films with it. This creative spark encouraged him to eventually enroll in the National Film and Television School, and there was where Wallace and Gromit was born. Wallace was inspired by Park's own father, an amateur inventor, while Gromit naturally came from a desire for an animal sidekick. He was originally meant to be a cat, though Park preferred the shape of a cartoon dog. Uh, uh, the first 10 minutes of what would become A Grand Day Out made up Park's thesis film at college, and it wasn't until later, after getting a job with Aardman and working his way up, was he able to finish the project. The film was released to critical acclaim, but the duo hadn't quite lit the world on fire yet. But they did end up winning the BAFTA for Best Animated Short, beating out Creature Comforts. But now, with Aardman, Nick Park, Wallace, and Gromit all finally coming together, the pieces have been laid for their eventual rise to glory. But for now, A Grand Day Out is about Wallace and Gromit on a lazy afternoon, pining for some tea and crackers. But there's a problem. They haven't got any cheese to go with the crackers. The only sensible solution is for Wallace to build a rocket so they can fly to the moon and eat the moon cheese. So I'm going to preface this with the fact that I hadn't seen anything Wallace and Gromit until I first went through this category and watched all the nominees. Like, I did not grow up with them at all. And I only barely, like, I knew of them. I knew of their like cultural status, but I just hadn't I just never watched it. It was never on TV, any of the channel stations I watched, or at least nothing that I ended up watching. It just didn't hit me as a child. So, but this is a great short. This is Wallace and Gromit are just such perfect characters. And a lot of a lot of it is, of course, Nick Park's character design and world building, and just the sheer simplicity of their issues, compounded with the insanity that comes from them. And also, a lot of it is Peter Salus's work as voice acting as Wallace, which I read that for this short, Nick Park had called him up and paid him €50 or £50 uh, for him to voice Wallace in his little thesis short film. And then, uh, but yeah, this little short is just so good. It's just so good. It features everything that will make Wallace and Gromit the great duo that they are today. And it's like, this isn't the peak of Wallace and Gromit. They still have a ways to go, but this is a great starting point for them. And it's just like, it's so nice how like fully formed they already are. Like, there is a bit of wonkiness with Wallace's character design that will get ironed out in the next short film, but for it is just I'm just repeating myself. It's just a really good short film. Oh, I love the moon. I actually, the one problem I might have with it, I think the stuff with the weird robot that's on the moon goes a bit too long. And I read that like originally Nick Park wanted to have this whole sequence where like Wallace and Gromit get arrested in prison on the moon. moon, and it's just like, and there's like a fast food restaurant, or a moon fast food restaurant or something as well. But when he was going to work on it at Aardman, it's just like, nah, this is way too much work. You gotta cut all this shit out. So he did, and it's like it's just the robot now. And then eventually they go back to Earth and whatever. And it's just like, I think it could have ended like after they got to the moon, after maybe a little bit more comedy after that, and them going back to Earth, of course. But uh, as it is, this is still really funny. This is still really good. I love it. Good short. What do you think, Noah?
I agree with everything you said. Like, this is easily the best of the three we've watched, and just honestly, I forgot how much I loved Wallace and Gromit and how much their shorts just absolutely whip until I like went back and watched this for the podcast, because I don't know, it had been a little while, but this is just so good. Like, I could honestly just watch hours of Wallace and Gromit just doing stuff, even silently. Like, they're just so entertaining and charming. Charming is the word that like I keep using for Aardman, but it's true. Like, I just love watching these little guys go.
Hmm.
And this is probably their most well-known one, even if it's not like the best, or just the idea of them going to the moon to get the cheese, like that's kind of like become just their iconic plot line. I remember in like high school, me and my friends would always quote the one line about Wallace, we forgot the crackers, Gromit. That was just like a meme in high school, and that was like years after this came out. So like this one has like huge cultural staying power. I remember in one of our health classes, they were like teaching us about all the drugs we had to avoid, and they were showing us like some video of a crack addict or something, and they were like going through withdrawal. One of the kids was like, "We forgot the crack, Gromit," and that's not good, but that's just a testament to how much this movie specifically and these characters obviously have stuck around. And I love the machine. I think it does go on a bit too long at the end, but again, it's just like the Puma from the last short, just watching him like move or
Hmm.
and do his little thing. It's just so captivating. Like,
I
I do think I just have like a toddler mind, but I could just watch him like walk around and wiggle and shit for ages, really.
I do really love how he just like he don't even really understand why, but he just randomly decides to try and kill Wallace, but he runs out of money or whatever as the baton is about to hit his head or whatever. And it's just like Wallace is just so oblivious to the whole machine. And it's just like the fact it was moving around and everything. It's just so good. And while on your point before, I don't think this is the most famous one. I think this most famous one would probably be uh it's Wrong Trousers that has the penguin, right? I
That's
think
the one I remember best.
I think that's the one that is the most like broadly well known as a short. But I think like the line about the crackers and like we haven't got any cheese. It's just like those are just the most iconic like Wallace sayings. It's just like just a he's just such a mundane for person for someone who goes on like so many crazy adventures. I guess that's the appeal. That's the appeal of Mr. Magoo. It's just like he's just such a nobody. He's just such a regular person, and then he gets into these wacky scenarios. And it's
Yeah,
just
but
like,
like we don't want Wallace to die, which is the key difference between him and Mr. Magoo.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's
I think it might be funny if Wallace died just once.
they should do like one short where like Wallace is dead and he goes to like hell and he's just trying to find cheese or something. I don't.
Mhm.
I'm not the
And
I'm not
like
the Aardman artist. They can come up with the rest, but
yeah, and like he does die, but he gets better at the end. And like I don't want
he
him
just
like
decides to
gone
come
forever.
back, or
Yeah. Like
Gromit resurrects him. I don't get. I feel like he'd have a good handle on that.
it's so what happens is that Wallace dies, and like when he's at the pearly gates, it's just like there's some like error like in the
He's
book or whatever.
British.
Yeah. I just
None of
mean
that in here.
it's like the pages get like there's a murderer in line with him, and it's just like he swaps their pages, or like he secretly turns the page when St. Peter isn't looking to make him think that Wallace is the murderer and so he gets sent to hell, and it's just like, but he just annoys the devil or whatever the whole time. I'm
Probably
like,
wouldn't even like realize it's hell. You just think it's like they need to turn the air conditioning on in heaven.
exactly.
Probably wouldn't even realize he's dead.
Well,
Like
he wouldn't ask him to turn the AC on because British don't have AC.
that's true. That explains so much. That's
Like when I learned that, it's just like when there was like a recent heat wave or something, and it's just like and there's just like it sucks for us because we don't have AC. And it's just like, why not? It makes life so much better. And it's like, yeah, I guess you don't need it as much because you don't get super hot or super cold there. I guess they do have heaters, but they don't get super hot usually. So it's just like, but still, it's just like when it's 80 degrees, wouldn't you want it to be 70?
yeah, I don't.
Or I guess
They
whatever
got a
the
lot to sort
equivalent
out there.
is centigrade or whatever. But yeah, it's just the British people. What's wrong with them? At least they gave us this though.
They ran out of crackers.
They that's that's what's wrong with every like all the evil British people. It's just like they don't have any more crackers and cheese.
If they brought the cheese and crackers to like Queen Elizabeth, she probably would have realized like
She
A,
wouldn't have died.
yeah, no, A, she wouldn't have died. B, she would have realized like, maybe I shouldn't be marrying my cousin and like being permanent nonsense
She
made up.
realized
I
that
don't even know what
colonialism
to.
sucks.
Yeah, like come on, like why are we still doing this? It's all just it's
It's the
goofy.
British version of like having a Snickers. It's having your cheese and crackers.
Yeah. I think you were mentioning Wallace reminds you of Mr. Magoo. He reminds me of like a British version of Huckleberry Hound. Because like the whole point of the Huckleberry Hound shorts was like they nearly kill him in every one, but he's just pretty calm and just kind of like, okay.
I,
He reminds me of that.
I
I think
don't
that's like
even
the analog for me.
I'm not even sure I've seen a Huckleberry Hound short. Like very clearly see the character. I know what he looks like, but I'm not sure I've seen anything with him.
I think probably the best one is either there's a bowling tournament or there's one where he's taming a lion. Those are the two I'd probably recommend if we're getting into like real culture talk right now. But
Just trying to look up. Uh oh, was he? Did he originate like on TV? Like in the
yeah,
okay, I'm only I'm only really familiar with like the film characters. It's like I never watched TV shows or anything. Like I feel like I've probably caught some like old like Yogi Bear shorts on like a Boomerang and things like that. But I don't remember Huckleberry Hound.
he was just basically like American Wallace.
American Wallet. That's my sequel to American Psycho.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, or American Beauty. I think American Beauty would fit more.
American Beauty is like Wallace wants to. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna finish
Wallace
that
wants to jack
sentence.
off.
Yeah. It's him naked and there's like a bunch of cheese falling on him.
It's like he's not into an underage girl. He's just into cheese. That's
He's
his
into
vice.
the were rabbit.
The Were Rabbit is a fucking Chris Cooper. Or no, that'd be the Penguin, wouldn't it? But anyway, we're getting way off. I think we got to ring it back here. Anything
Yeah,
else you'd
no
like to
more
say?
talk of Wallace's sex crimes. No, I don't. Uh,
Nothing else you'd like to say about A Grand Day Out?
no, you answered my one question, which was I was gonna ask you like, has it ever happened when like one director got nominated for two features in one year? But you answered that.
Yeah.
I would have assumed just like back like you mentioned like back in the day when the producers got all the credit like maybe Walt Disney or someone even though he didn't like direct too many of the cartoons would have gotten like those Oscars, but yeah, no, that was all I was curious about.
Yeah, it's definitely happened multiple times. Like I think Nick Park was like the seventh person, at least when it comes to like official nominations. And but even with directors, it's like I'm pretty sure that has happened multiple times before. Like I'm pretty sure Chuck Jones has had multiple films in there. Friz Freleng has probably had multiple films in there. Of course, Hanna-Barbera had probably had multiple times. Actually, I'm not sure if they no, they've probably had a couple
Sounds
doubles
right.
in there somewhere because like there was I think maybe the rule's still around, but there was a rule where it's just like multiple films from the same series couldn't be nominated at the same time. So it's like there was only one Tom and Jerry short in each year. Um, so and I don't think Hanna-Barbera did much outside of Tom and Jerry when they were at MGM.
Yeah,
But
no, Tom and Jerry was their main thing. Then they opened their own studio and focused on TV.
yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm sure there's been plenty of directors who've had multiple nominees in the same year here. But Nick Park is the last of them.
He's made sure of that. He's killed all the other ones.
He's killed every other animation director. It's or who's actually like whenever somebody makes two films in a year, he goes to their house late at night with a steel pipe and it's just like, you only going to nominate one, you only going to submit one of these to the Academy, right? And it's just like he's faking the British accent. It's just like
He
he's
leaves
actually
like
like an
one of
Italian
the
mobster.
he leaves like one of the creature comfort animals' head in their bed.
Oh my god. But yeah. Uh So, if we have nothing else to say about A Grand Day Out, let's move on to our third and final nominee, which is Grasshoppers, not directed by Nick Park, but rather Bruno Bozzetto. This is Bozzetto's first and only Oscar nomination, and he is quite a notable Italian animator. He's perhaps most famous for directing A Lego Non Troppo, which parodied Disney's Fantasia, but is known in his home country for creating the character of Signor Rossi and just generally having a long and storied animation career, directing over 75 films. And personally, a fun tidbit is that in the late 90s, he pivoted to making animated films using Flash, and one of his films called Europe and Italy is what inspired the creation of the Poland Ball internet subculture, if you are familiar with that. And I just want to say Mr. Bozzetto is 85 and still making films. God bless him. So that's all I have to say about him. Going back to the nominee, Grasshoppers tells a comedic history of world conflicts, king versus his subjects, nation versus nation, religion versus secular, and even finding time for Genghis Khan, the ultimate big guy, little guy film. Noah, what did you think of our final nominee?
This was the only one I hadn't seen prior to this, and I was a bit familiar with his work, mostly Lego Non Troppo, but I went into this one totally blind, and I did enjoy it a lot. I think out of the three, it's my least favorite, but I still really, really liked it. Like there is not a weak one here, in my opinion. It sort of reminded me of like both Johnny Hart's comics and the cutout animations Terry Gilliam did for Monty Python, just in their like timing and like the sound effects and just like how I guess blunt it could be. But oh, and I loved all the little sound effects, especially when the king kisses that woman and it's just like the nastiest slurp you've ever heard.
Yeah.
I think it at least should have won like the Oscar for best slurp, but
Oscar for best slurp.
I thought this was a really fun little one, even if I prefer the other two, I had a really good time with this one, and I like the recurring like visual motifs of the dust clouds coming up every minute.
Mm-hmm.
That's how pretty much every set piece there ends. I thought that was pretty clever.
And with the grass growing and everything.
Yeah, that too. And I like the music and how the music just there's something off about it, and I don't know what it is, but I thought that like really served the movie well. It was a nice little effect. How like
Mhm.
some of the trumpet blowing was off key or whatever, or maybe a little tinny, I don't know, but it worked. And I think they should have played this before Oppenheimer.
Yeah, maybe.
Like what George Lucas wanted to do with Duck Dodgers before Star Wars. I think that would have worked, although maybe they didn't want like a wacky silly cartoon before a not particularly wacky silly movie. So
Yeah, I'm sure if you told Christopher Nolan about it, he'd print the film in 70 millimeter and make sure and get the IMAX people to extend their extender trays just a tiny bit. Uh,
yeah, no, I think if I told him about it, he would either like do what you said and put like the utmost care into like putting it before the movie, or he'd just like kill me. So
yeah, he'd just punch you repeatedly in the face.
you
And
don't
then
know shit about cinema.
I don't even really know what Christopher Nolan sounds like, but that
I
felt
I heard
mean.
him talk a little while ago for like an Oppenheimer interview, and I don't know if it was anything like that, but he was British, and the
Yeah.
theme of this episode is like being
Un-
unnecessarily cruel to the British. So
yeah. Unfortunately, he was British, so he must suffer for it.
yeah, they should make like an Oppenheimer about him, where he like he spends like the last half of the movie being traumatized about being British, and like
It, instead of like
I fear I
the
have
security
blood on my
clearance,
hands, sir.
the British
And like
asshole out of
Boris
here.
Johnson instead of Truman.
God. Uh, but yeah, it's just like instead of the trial for like his security clearance or whatever, it's people trying to figure out like why he's British, even though he seems kind of American just from his vibe or whatever.
So that image of the giraffe from Madagascar, Melman, where it's like, why are you British?
Why are you British? Exactly. Um, but yeah, going back to grasshoppers,
Oh
I did,
yeah.
yeah, I, I, I like to let us go on tangents, but I also like try to draw us back every now and then so we don't get too far off. And especially if I find that the tangent is like running dry a bit. But
Yeah.
grasshoppers, um, I did like this one. Really like the art style in here. I like you said, I really like I really like the quick pacing, how it just goes quickly from one set piece to another. And I think um this reminds me of another nominee called History of the World in 3 minutes flat, whereas that one goes way too quickly. It's just like you need more time than 3 minutes to tell all the jokes you want to do. I think this one paces itself a bit better. It has better jokes in it. I did chuckle a few times at least. And it's just like I just enjoyed the general art style, and like you were saying, the music is really interesting. And I really enjoy the building it has, where it's just like it slowly gets crazier and crazier, and it's just like it's there's also interesting like plot going through it. Like it's like there's it's very purposeful the order they show things in, because while at first it shows like the very simple like you have a master and a slave and the slave overcomes the master, or but then it starts doing things like uh where there is like the subservient person, whoever that may be in the specific scene. It's just like they eventually become the king in the next one and they get overthrown too, and so on and so forth. And it's just like it does little twists on its own formula throughout the short, and eventually it culminates in this really just like all out battle where like everybody's just fighting each other. It it has a great sense of pacing, a great sense of storytelling. I really appreciate this short, even if I didn't love it as much as perhaps one of these other nominees this year. It is it's still a solid short film, and I'm glad it got nominated. And I wish more people would watch it. It's like this isn't just the year with the two Nick Park nominations. There's this third film. It's solid. Go check it out.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about the pacing. Like it's longer than Creature Comforts, but it actually this thing feels really short, and it's just because it flows so well. Like by the time you're done, you're sort of like that was it, but they packed a lot into a decent. It's like 8 minutes or so, but it just feels like it breezed by, and I really appreciate how blunt it is, but it also feels like very deliberate and careful at the same time.
Hmm. Like you can tell that Bruno Bazzetti he's a really good animator.
Yeah,
He knows what he's fucking doing.
you can't do like something this tight and snappy without the years of experience to back it up. Like this is time to the microsecond. He makes every frame count. Like you just can't do that without 100% knowing what you are doing.
Mhm. But also like knowing Mr. Bozzetto's Italian, if he is listening, which I know he is, I know he's
I
going to complain about everything we've said. He's just like
damn.
we don't understand a thing about his film.
That's true. Like
Oh yeah,
I
the
usually don't
baby brain that
understand what I'm
you're
watching.
keep
Yeah.
bringing up.
Yeah, no, I liked that the pictures go vroom vroom. Mr. Bozetti, thank you for doing that.
Bozzetto, actually, I messed up.
Bozzetto, crap.
Sorry, I keep mispronouncing the name. Another
He's
thing
gonna
he's going to
kill
yell at
us.
me for. He's going to come
He's
to
gonna like nuke us, and then grass is gonna grow everywhere.
He's gonna enlist Oppenheimer. He's gonna and Christopher Nolan to simulate a nuclear explosion, and that they're going to just make a nuclear bomb and blow it up at my house
Yeah, no, at least it's authentic.
until somebody makes a bigger bomb.
They should make a bigger bomb, not for like any political reasons, but just to like mess with Nolan because now his movie's kind of obsolete.
I mean, they did make bigger bombs. Like
Yeah, that is true.
there's famously the Tsar Bomba, that like is the biggest nuclear weapon ever detonated. Like it was an H bomb, if I'm pretty sure. And so, uh, yeah,
It's true. I just got caught up in the moment and forgot that they're still bombing.
they're gonna make Oppenheimer 2.
I'm gonna bring
Like a
it back.
person like Oppenheimer 2 who may, except he doesn't have the same moral obligations to like not make more bombs or whatever. He's gonna be super chill about it. And that man, Joseph Biden.
Hell yeah, they should make a movie about Biden.
I mean, they made 2 Obama movies.
Did they?
Yeah, they were
What
both like
was-
prequels to like the Obama administration, but
prequels to Obama. Oh yeah, like the scene from the Flash TV show where Gorilla Grodd tries to.
I mean, that too. And one of them was like a look at like Barack Obama in college and stuff. And it's
Oh,
like,
I think I have heard of that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's called Barry. It's on Netflix, and that, or it was a Netflix movie. They might have taken it off. Who knows? Everybody's taken everything off their
No,
streaming
there's
services.
nothing on any of those services anymore.
Um, and then there was also South Side with You, which is about Barack and Michelle, like their, I think it was like their first date or something. That's about.
Oh,
But yeah, but yeah,
before
let's
all the
make
drone strikes.
a corn pop movie.
They should like they have like a Biden walk-on cameo, like how Oppenheimer had Einstein,
It'd be
so the
like
audience can clap.
American Splendor. Have you seen that movie?
American Splendor. Oh, with Harvey, the based on the comic, yeah, Harvey
Yeah.
Pekar. Yeah,
Yes. And it's just like that film, like it starts with like narration from him, or it's like it's him in an interview zone. Oh no, like an interview void. And he's like talking about his story, and then it like shows the story.
if you put him in an interview void, I think he'd like that would kill him. Like I don't think he's coming out of that. Like
Like,
you can't
if-
do that to him.
Like very Errol Morris. It's just like it's just in a white void and talking to the camera.
Yeah, where the hell am I, man?
They should do that to Robert Crumb, just trap him in the void.
I think the void would want to leave. As much as I love Robert Crumb, it's containing him would be like cruel to whoever you're containing him with.
It's like you're not keeping them out, you're keeping him in.
I'm not like locked in here with you, man. You're locked in here with me. Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm so
Can I
fucking
sniff your
horny,
shoe?
dude.
Can I see your ankles?
God, I only watched the Crumb documentary recently. Yeah, and it's just like, yeah, he's a horny fucking guy.
He's also like the most normal guy in his family, which I appreciate.
True, true. He's
Like he's the golden boy somehow.
yeah.
Oh, I love Crumb. I'm just kind of like terrified by him.
Is he still alive?
Yeah, his wife, Aileen, who is also like a fantastic cartoonist, she just passed away not too long ago.
Oh,
So right now he's on like a trek across America with his family, which seems to be having a good time.
good for him? Question mark.
I saw a photo of him like with his grandson on like a roller coaster or something posted on social media, so it seems like he's kind of vibing.
I guess so.
Just don't let him
Like
see
I'm not
like
sure if I
the
should be happy
mascots.
for him, like just morally, but like, I mean, people deserve to be happy, even if they are fucked up creeps.
Like he's terrifying, but at the same time, I don't think he's ever hurt anybody. So as long as he's
Yeah.
keeping that shit like confined to the comics page, I guess
Yeah.
he can do whatever.
I think that's a good note to leave Grasshoppers on.
And
And
the work of Robert Crumb and Oppenheimer and Joe Biden and
for Oppenheimer.
God.
J. Robert Krobenheimer.
He creates like a nuclear bomb shaped like
Penis.
a chubby woman's foot or something. I don't know. I don't want to think about that, honestly.
But yeah, now that we've gone through and talked about the 3 nominees, let's rank them all. Noah, start us off with your number 3.
Number 3 would be Grasshoppers. Like I said, I really enjoyed it, and I don't think any of these were particularly weak at all. Like they were all great, but just if I have to pick a least favorite out of the 3, I guess it would go to that one. But it's still fantastic. Like can't go wrong with any of these.
Well, I would say one of them this week, and I would say that film was Creature Comforts.
Oh.
I apologize again to everyone, to listeners at home who probably adore this short film, but I don't get it.
The
I'm
creatures are
sorry.
gonna hear this, and it's gonna upset them.
They're gonna come to my house and maul me to
It
death.
won't be too
Like
comfortable then.
Nick Park, Bruno Bozzetto, and Christopher Nolan are all gonna come to my house and kill me. It's gonna be like the fucking Blues Brothers. Or this is like gonna get a massive car chase with all these different people trying to kill me. He is just like, and I just wanna
Robert Crumb trailing behind on like a little
Robert Crumb's there
bicycle from
too.
like some 1920s comic or whatever.
Robert Crumb's the Illinois Nazis. It's like, uh, I just watched Blues Brothers last night. I got to see it in theaters. It's still a great
Oh,
movie.
nice. I
Uh,
picked it up on DVD not too long ago because I found both of them for $5, and I was like, I don't even want the second one, but that's a good deal. So I've been meaning to watch that DVD.
you gotta watch it. It's such a great movie.
No, it is a great movie. I
Oh
just
yeah, you've seen it. It's just
no,
you.
I have. Yeah, I have seen it. I
Okay.
just haven't got around to rewatching it, which I
Yeah.
should.
Yeah, I have that problem too. I buy so many DVDs just in the case I do want to rewatch it at some point, but so many of them are just still in their original wrapping or whatever.
Yeah, I know. I see those and then I like feel bad and then I wish maybe Christopher Nolan should kill me, but
But I just want them in case I do want to rewatch them. It's like I want to first off, I want to give money to the people who like made these films. It's like, yeah, this is a great movie. Here, take my money because I probably pirated it to watch it the first time.
yeah.
Um, but then it's just like, yeah, I in case I want to watch it or let somebody else watch it, I have it on DVD, so I don't need to rely on streaming services or whatever. It's just like it's all great. It's
Yeah,
all
no, I'm very pro physical media. Even if I've ended up wasting a lot of money on DVDs I haven't watched yet, I'm still stubborn enough to be proud of the principle.
Mhm. What's your number 2?
Number 2 is Creature Comforts, which I know I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I thought it was a nice, cute little short, and sometimes that's all I need.
I'm coming to your fucking house to kill you,
All right, good.
just like everyone else.
Somebody has to before I sin again.
Yeah, it's just like everybody's coming to my house to kill me, but I've already left my house to kill you. And it's just like, but yeah, my number 2 is Grasshoppers, which very solid film. Really enjoyed it. Good shit. Noah, what's your number 1? We
Mr.
we have
Magoo.
we have the same one. It's Mr. Magoo
Yeah,
who
no,
and
it's
Huckleberry
that good.
Hound.
It came back. But yeah, it is a grand day out. That's just when you mentioned Letterboxd, I realized I forgot to like log these, and I'm gonna rate that a 5 out of 5. That's just a great cartoon. I love it.
I'm not that generous. I'm gonna go. I did go 4 out of 5. Uh, but yeah, it's still really great. It's still a
All
lot
right,
of
now you're
fun.
gonna get Nick Park coming after you. You got everybody.
Hmm. Yeah. I when I get to like after the best animated short, it's like I've basically just been inviting all of my Twitter friends and things like that onto this podcast. So I think after this, I want to try and ask like actual filmmakers to come on. So maybe one day I could get like Nick Park to come on and talk about some of his films because he
That
is
would
still
be
alive.
yeah. No, he's not like he would only be like in his late 50s, early 60s now, right?
Yeah, I think so. Nick Park. Um,
It turns out he
64.
died 5 minutes ago. Oh,
Yeah, it's just like a tragic death in a skiing robot accident.
damn. It's our conversation about him was so bad it killed him like cosmically.
Mhm. I am scared that that's going to happen sometime though, because like so many times especially when I was going through the 70s and 80s, when it's just like we actually started getting people who are alive on this podcast, I kept mentioning like the people who were alive and like celebrating. It's like, yeah, this person is 85 and still kicking. It's just like what if they die in between me recording the episode and when the episode comes out? It's just
Add like
like
one of those Warner Brothers like old media disclaimers at the beginning where it's like these were appropriate in the time, but
I'm not gonna get canceled. At least I hope not. Um, but yeah, it's Grand Day Out. It's such a grand short film.
yeah, that's it's hard to beat that one.
It it's hard to beat Wally and Grommy.
Yeah, the boys.
Fucking
That's what
dudes
we
rock.
call them around here.
The good old boys. Um, yeah, I'm really excited to get not just get more Wallace and Gromit, but get more Aardman in here because like they're just great, and it's just like the '90s as a whole are just a really great time for this category. Like
Yeah, it's a
the
very like you're getting sort of a new wave of people coming in because there's like all the alternative, I guess, animators like all the Spike and Mike sort of people, which leads to Beavis and Butthead and South Park and all that stuff. Even though it's not like in the Oscars, that whole sort of movement is
Mhm.
coming now.
Yeah, I'm just looking through at some of these people that are in here. They're as just like it's like we get like the Courage the Cowardly Dog short film that's in here, Chicken from Outer Space. He's gonna get like more nominations for like Mark Baker, who went on to create Peppa Pig, and it's just like and we also get a win for Alexander Petrov. Do you know who that is?
That name sounds really familiar, but I
He,
might just be out of it right now and forgetting.
he is a Russian animator who did these oil on glass short films, and The Old Man in the Sea in 1999 is like his masterwork, and it's like that's one I'm really excited to talk about.
I think in college we might have seen that, but I'm having a hard time remembering. But that does sound very familiar.
I'll send it to you after this. It's like even if you have seen it before, you just gotta
No, it's
watch
worth
it again.
rewatching. Yeah.
It is just one of the most gorgeous films I've ever seen. But yeah, um, before we end our show, are there any final thoughts you'd like to share, Noah, or anything you'd like to promote?
The only thing I have to promote is I think probably the same thing I promoted last time, which is my thesis film is gonna ideally be coming out next year.
Nice.
And that's really it. I think
Well,
I'll postponed a bit, but no, we're back plugging along at that again.
well, we'll make sure to get you on again sometime around when that film is going to come out, just so you can promote it again. Then it's just like, just be like, hey, you can watch this now.
That would be, and then it's gonna beat Nick Park out for the Oscars, and he will kill me
You're going to get 2 nominations. You're going to make another
for
film.
one
Let's see.
movie.
No, you're going to
So
make
good they
another
nominated
movie,
it
like
twice.
and like you're going to make a film on one day that also gets nominated, and Nick Park will come out and kill you.
That's the dream. That's the complete cycle.
He'll make a Rube Goldberg style machine to murder you on the Oscar stage.
I would expect nothing less.
Mm-hmm. God, I'm so excited to see the breakfast machine again. From I think it's Wrong Trousers, maybe Close
I
Shave.
was thinking because Paul Rubens just died. I was thinking like the Pee Wee's Big Adventure one. I was like,
I
what?
did watch that recently. Also, I also watched that in theaters last week. I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, that's also just a great movie. And yeah, of course, also has a Rube Goldberg style breakfast machine. I wonder if that inspired Wallace and Gromit a bit.
Oh, definitely. That's definitely where they got it from.
But yeah, that whole movie is so fun.
It is.
Honestly, it's very similar to Blues Brothers in a way.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the same sort of sensibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to cut this short a bit. I do have to run out in a minute.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you, Noah, for coming on the show, and
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
thank you, listener, for tuning in. This has been the short podcast about short films. Until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.